Well, folks, it's another Relate Well with Dr. Rick Marks. Yeah, I'm doing two back to back today, and my goal is to actually do a minimum of two, three a week, and probably in the early mornings, so that you can watch when you're getting ready for work if you wanted to. I'm thinking I'll probably do them like a Wednesday, Wednesday mornings, um, or maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that. I'm not sure the date, but we starting probably next week. I'll let you know the dates, but it'll probably early morning, 7:30 to about 8:15. So you can join in and listen and start your day with the Relate Well with Dr. Rick Marks, and that'll allow you to get your day going, to encourage you in your day as you look forward to your day at work, the relationships that you encounter during that day, and a way to really to improve yourself and improve the relationships around you. You know, one of the things that we talk about in Relate Well is designed to help you become the best version of yourself so that you can relate well, so that you can love well and live well. Because in order to love well and live well, you have to learn how to relate well. And that is really the heartbeat of what we're about at Relate Well, is just teaching people how to relate in mature, healthy ways so they can create the relationships, as far as it concerns them, they can create the relationships that they really want in their lives. And you can't do that until you learn to start living for us, not yourself. It goes against Western culture, that's for sure. But when it comes to relationships, we don't value relationships. We value winning arguments usually. But healthy, mature people will protect the relationship from healthy, mature people protect the relationship from conflict. Why? Because they'd rather have the relationship than win an argument or win a fight. Sadly, that's not Western culture, particularly America. We will destroy a relationship in order to be right. We will destroy a relationship in order to win an argument. We will destroy a relationship so that we can be on top. You're on top. Your partner is basically beneath you. And sadly, that is kind of how Western culture does things. But marriage requires maturity, and mature people understand the higher way of living is to protect your relationships. And by protecting your relationship, you'll always protect your partner. So then, today, on this episode of Relate Well with Dr. Rick Marks, I want to talk about two traits. And I'm going to tell you something. These two traits are not that sexy. You know what I mean? And you think, what? You're kidding me, Doc. No, I'm not. I'm really not kidding you. These two traits are really essential for a healthy marriage, and a loving marriage, and a caring marriage. All right? And you will see the long-term benefit of these two particular traits. Now, if you're listening in, I'm live right now on YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram. And welcome to all those who are tuning in. All right. If you're tuning in and you're listening in, I want you to know, please, please, please feel free to make a statement, write a comment, or just say hello. Good to see you, Doc. You know, let me know you're there. If you have a question, ask your question. I'll answer it. I want these Relate Well times to be a dialogue as much as it is me just a teaching time in a lecture. I think we all benefit, myself included, when I get to interact and engage those who are here and answer questions during the time that we have. So feel free to do that. And I noticed that my friend Abundant Life is here, so welcome. And good to have you back at another Relate Well with Dr. Rick. And so I wave to you. And so thank you for being on the last one that we just had, as a matter of fact, and your inputs you gave there. All right, folks. So again, if you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, feel free to send me a comment, make a statement, say hi, and let's make this something that we can engage in and talk through. All right. Now what I want to do, hang on just a minute here. I need to do something real quick. I need to minimize that real fast. I want to open this one up here. And oh, there. All righty. Now, what does conscientiousness and self-control have to do with a healthy marriage relationship? I mean, you think about it, conscientiousness, self-control has something to do with a healthy relationship. Yes, it does. When you think about people you want to spend the rest of your life with, I mean, what are the traits most people are looking for? Oh, I want to keep a romantic relationship. We want to have fun. I want them to stay in good health, good shape. I want them, we want to be, we want to have a great sex life. Not against any of that, folks. Not against any of that. But the two traits that I'm talking about today, so research shows, are highly important traits for a healthy marriage and a mature long-term marriage. They don't sound that sexy, folks, but I'm going to tell you something. Without these two things, you won't have the sexy. Did you get that? Without these two things, you won't have the sexy. So let's take a look at these two things. Now, there was an article in Inc. magazine which quotes a Psychology Today article by a psychologist named Jeremy Nicholson. And Nicholson was quoting studies that he had been doing in his research around traits for healthy relationships. And one of the things he noticed in a lot of different studies was that conscientiousness and self-control were important traits for the success to have a long-term, enduring, happy marriage relationship. You see, and you might think about this. What is it that Dr. Nicholson was writing about? Listen to this statement here in the Inc. magazine article, which I have right here in front of me. Nicholson puts this out there. He says, one study shows that, quote, partners of individuals, in other words, if you are married to an individual who is high in self-control, if you're married to an individual who is high in self-control, that partners who are of individuals who have high self-control, if your spouse is a person that's high in self-control, your trust of your partner increases greatly. In other words, the research was that the more self-control a person has, the more you are likely to trust them. The less self-control your partner has, the likelihood is you won't trust them. Listen to the rest of this paragraph in this article. The writer in Inc. writes this. It turns out that trust is well placed because 3 different studies show that romantic partners with high self-control were much likelier. Listen, 3 different studies shows that romantic partners with high self-control were much likelier to be faithful, to their lovers than those with lower self-control. Apparently, those with better ability to control themselves can resist temptation, even the temptation to stray when someone cute is flirting with them, Nicholson writes. In other words, this person sums up that paragraph, the writer of Inc. sums it up this way. You might be attracted to passion and spontaneity, but if you want a monogamous relationship and a faithful partner, you'll do better if you look for someone with good self-control. Self-control. Think about that. And our culture lacks self-control. I mean, come on, folks. We can't even put our phones down. We've lost self-control even over devices, right? I mean, I saw a funny social media, a cartoon about social media. It says, a person was calling up all their friends and said, yeah, come on over. I'm having a party at my house. We're all going to check our social media together. And it was a picture, one of the blogs, all these people sitting in a room looking at their devices. That's kind of where we are today. we find it difficult to put it down. Guilty at times. Guilty at times. I'm becoming more and more conscientious about leaving my phone in my car when I go out. When I go off to dinner, well, I leave it in the car. I don't say anything to her about it. I just do. Why? I don't want the temptation. I want to be present for her. I want to be present to us, because I know that I can lose self-control and have this desire to, it's kind of addictive, right? I kind of want to look at it. Same time, someone who doesn't have self-control may not stay with pornography. They may cheat on you. They're more directed by whim and impulse, emotion, than they are rational, healthy choices. People who lack self-control can be compulsive buyers. They drink. Addictions. People with addictions have very little to no self-control. You see, and so when you lack self-control, you're going to do things that are harmful to your partner. You're going to do things that are hurtful. You may hit, you may yell, you may scream. Why? Because you lack self-control. I think people who lack self-control want to live for the moment. They live for what's going on now in this moment with them. But they don't understand that their lack of self-control in living out that impetuous way of living, right? The damage that it causes to the partner and to their sense of usness. The people who have self-control can be trusted. You don't expect them to spend frivolously. You know that they can drink with responsibility. You got it? They don't go do destructive things out of impulse, because people who act on impulse lack self-control. They lack self-control. And when you lack self-control, you're not going to treat people with goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy. Lack of self-control is about you. The lack of self-control doesn't think about the effects of what you're about to do on other people. It's only looking for its own pleasure, its own reward. You're getting that dopamine in your brain. That's what you're looking for. So you compulsively spend, you compulsively eat, or alcohol or drugs, right? And the thing is, when you live this way as a way of being, you lose trust over time. Your partner doesn't trust you. They're not sure about you anymore. You see? And so when that all takes place and happens, there is a part of you that doesn't care. There's a part of you that's not thinking about the effects of what you're about to do. Or if you do think about the effects, and it may be fleeting, but if you do think about it, ultimately you're not going to care enough. Because why? You're more emotional driven and wanting your own pleasure than realizing the damage that what you do was going to have down the road, you see. To lack self-control is to lack patience. To lack self-control is to lack patience. I want it now. Kind of our culture, isn't it? But we all live in this microwave way of living, right? I want what I want. I want it now. I don't have to wait a minute. I want it now. I want answers now. Devices, right? They give you the answer now. I want to get it so you can compulsively buy it on Amazon. Don't have the money. You shouldn't be spending money. It's out of your budget range, but you do it anyway. Why? Lack of self-control. And you don't have the self-control to control your anger. You lack the self-control to control your anger. So your anger, because you have no self-control over it, what do? You hurt people. You yell, you scream, physically abuse. You emotionally abuse, you mentally abuse, but you don't care. Why? It's still all about you. Why? You lack self-control. Now, from the world of emotional intelligence, people who lack self-control lack self-awareness. Get that? People who lack self-control lack self-awareness, because you can't stop yourself from doing something if you're not aware that you're doing it. So self-awareness is the first a competency you have to master within yourself. to be an emotionally intelligent person, or I use the phrase to be emotionally healthy, to be emotionally mature. I like to refer to that as emotional wellness. You see, and so when I lack self-awareness, you're not going to have self-control, because self-awareness precedes self-control. So if you lack self-control, you're losing trust, you're hurting people, but you're not aware. You're not aware. Now, let me say this. If you are self-aware and you still live without self-control, that implies it is about you, because you know what you're doing and you still choose it. And that would suggest a character issue. And if you're that kind of person that knows you're doing it, they told you you're doing it, and you continue to do it, you put your partner in a position to have to decide, what do they want to do? Do they want to stay in this? Do they want to keep living in it? That's a choice they'll end up having to make. I always say it this way. Never treat people in a way that you create conversations in their head. Never treat people in a way that you create conversations for them in their head. I never want to engage a conversation, do I need a divorce or not? But if I treated her in a way on a regular basis that demeaned her, devalued her, et cetera, I can create that conversation for her in her head. Why? Why wouldn't it come up? Why would she live with somebody who doesn't value her? It would be natural for her to wonder, well, should she stay? But if she stays or not would be a choice, but the conversation isn't supposed to come up. In other words, I think loving, healthy marriages, you don't think those things. Why? Why would you be thinking about leaving the person that you're so tied to, you're so connected to, that you're intimate with, that's you're one with, that sense of usness? Excuse me. It's when you lose the sense of usness over time, those kinds of conversations start showing up in people's head. So you don't treat people in a way that you're unkind. There's no goodwill and respect. Self-control will ensure you treat people with goodwill and respect. It ensures you treat people with kindness and patience. Self-control means you will be caring, but a lack of self-control, no goodwill, treat people disrespectful, you will not be kind. You'll be kind to yourself, but not to others or to us. And you're going to create harm. You're going to create harm. And so one of the key traits that shows up in healthy marriages is that the partners are people who practice self-control. Now, in my early days of marriage, I lacked self-control, particularly in spending. I'm the type of guy that could go out and, my goodness, I could spend a little bit of money here, a little money there, buy this, buy that, right? Without thinking about it, without thinking about the consequences, right? I come from an addiction family generation. I'm an addicted personality. And so I've had to learn to monitor those parts of myself over the years, okay? Got a lot better at it. But self-control allows you to think through the outcomes of your decisions. A lack of self-control, you don't think through the outcomes of your decisions, or if you know the outcomes and do it anyways, that just suggests you don't care. You think you can get away with it. You see, whatever it is. That help. And so that's one of the traits you want in someone is self-control. If you're already married and you lack self-control, would you value self-control enough to be a person who actually has self-control? In order to do that, you got to become self-aware. Many years ago, not many years ago, I think about 2 years ago, many months ago, but about 2 years ago, there was a study that was released. I wish I'd saved it. And I was reading it to Luella. The study was around self-awareness at the national level. And I think it was 78% of Americans in this national study indicated that they were self-aware. So 78% of Americans in this national study reported they had self-awareness. But the study also indicated, in reality, only 26% of Americans actually do. Get that. Most Americans, 3/4, report they have self-awareness. But in reality, only 25% do. A quarter of that. I was chuckling as I read that to Luella. She said, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "Well, think about the data, the meaning here. Most people aren't self-aware to know they're not self-aware. You cannot have self-control without self-awareness. They go, one builds to the other. And that's about emotional intelligence. All right. Now, the second trait is conscientiousness. The second quality that Nicholson talked about in his article was conscientiousness, that you want to be a person who's conscientious. You want to marry someone who's conscientious. All right. Now, that sounds, less sexy, less romantic, less admirable than self-control even, or being romantic, right? Or being fun, or being playful. However, listen to the statement in the article in Inc. The fact is that a conscientious partner is more likely to make the effort to work things through with you when the two of you get into conflict, or when anything in your relationship isn't as it should be. I'm going to read that again. The fact is that a conscientious partner is more likely to make the effort to work things through with you when the two of you get into conflict, or when anything in your relationship isn't as it should be. Listen to this quote by Nicholson. In 2 studies, researchers found that conscientiousness plays a role in motivation to correct relationship mistakes. In other words, conscientiousness leads a person to wanting to own up to the mistakes they make in the relationship. So we're going to go back to do the study. Their sentence. In 2 studies, researchers found that conscientiousness plays a role in motivation to correct relationship, in constructive problem solving, and in relationship satisfaction, Nicholson writes. That conscientiousness motivates people to deal with the mistakes that they have made in a relationship. They're conscious of what they're doing, and because they're conscious about it and the effects of it, they care. They move to empathy. Also, it is conscientiousness that makes sure that I want to handle conflict in a healthy, mature way. I want to solve problems. I want to communicate in healthy, mature ways. People who are conscientious are looking for the end result that us wins. People who are not conscientious don't care about the effects. They're not looking for the effects because they don't care about the effects. If they hurt you, they're not aware that they hurt you. Here's the self-awareness piece to the self-control. It's defined as conscientiousness. And conscientiousness plays a role in relationship satisfaction. The writer in Inc. puts it this way. You may want someone who can sweep you off your feet, but the truth is you'll have a happy relationship if you pick someone willing to do the work required to iron out the difficult issues that come up in every relationship. Conscientiousness. Are you aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it? Are you conscientious about how you're coming across? Are you conscientious about what your partner's feeling in the moment? Are you conscientious about how you're dealing with conflict? Are you conscientious that you've done something that hurt your partner, and you're conscientious as to how you hurt them, and that you then care? You see, if we're not conscientious, which is a self-awareness essentially, if you're not conscientious of what you're doing and how you're coming across, if you're not conscientious of the effects that you're having, if you can't see this as causing that, you're going to hurt people along the way. Why? You're not conscientious to it, what you're doing. You're not aware of what you're doing. So conscientious is essential. Now, in the world of emotional intelligence, it's known as self-awareness. Here in the psychology research, they're calling it conscientiousness. They're somewhat different. To be self-aware. Self-aware is to be conscientious. Got it? But conscientious is more than just self-awareness. I'm also conscientious to the effects of what I'm doing. Let me give you an example. Many years ago, my mentor, Dr. Lori Gordon, who I love and respect dearly, I was complaining about Luella with her many years ago on one of our trips. I used to work for her. And she was listening graciously. And when I got done sharing what was going on, she said to me, "Do you want to know why Luella is the way she is with you?" And I said, "Yeah, I know." And she said, "Well, why?" And I said, got a PhD in psychology. I'm married to a lady, right? I said, "Luella grew up in a broken home with a lot of abuse and craziness." I said, "This is, it's part of her woundedness." And Lori looked at me and very graciously said, "Are you open to another perspective?" It's like, yes, ma'am. Almost word for word, she said this: "Rick, have you considered the possibility that Luella is the way she is with you because of how you are as a way of being?" That phrase right there, as a way of being, my pattern of behavior, right? The way that I usually am, my tendencies as a way of being. Then she said, "What would you expect her to do? You taught her to do that. You trained her to do that. What would you expect?" Novel idea, folks, that you can actually create in somebody the very things that they are towards you because you created it. You trained them to do that. Now, Dr. Phil in his TV show, he says it a little more simpler. His show, he says it this way: we teach people how to be around us. I like Dr. Gordon's way because she said to me many years ago, and it kind of stuck with me. And I've been using that phrase as a way of being for myself since then. My way of being. How am I as a way of being? And so, because I have a way of being, my pattern, my tendency, then I'm training Luella how to deal with me. So now I'm at a point of humility, right? And I conscientious that there's reality here. I am creating this. I can see it now. I'm conscientious to it. So I asked the question. I said, "Well, then how would I untrain her?" And she said, "That's simple." I'm like, "Oh, good, And I said, "Okay, well, how do I do it?" Here's what she said. Listen up. She said, "That's simple, Rick. Change who you are and how you are as a way of being, and you'll untrain her." Huh. Change who I am as a way of being, and I'll untrain her. You know what I found out, folks? Dr. Gordon was absolutely right. I started changing myself back in 1994 when I decided I ain't gonna be that broken, immature guy anymore. I'm changing me, and I moved forward in changing me. And I noticed that over time, in changing me, I became aware of how I was coming across. I became conscientious of the effects of what I was doing. I became self-aware of how I was in a moment, how I was feeling in a moment. I became conscientious then of how that was expressing itself. I became conscientious of how I was talking. I became conscientious of how I was treating her. I became conscientious when I was being manipulative. I became conscientious when I was being controlling. And then I stopped myself from being that because I cared. Empathy. Self-awareness leads to self-control. Can't be self-aware if you're not conscientious. But self-awareness is about myself. Conscientiousness is an awareness of oneself, but an awareness of the effects of what you do. And yet, the research shows the two traits you want: conscientiousness and self-control. And when we are able to practice as a way of being conscientious and self-control, when you have those two things mastered, you'll be regulating yourself, folks. No one has to tell you how you're coming across. You're already aware. And you'll treat people with goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy. For those that don't know, goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy are the core of our Relate Well program. It's actually how I chose to live my life starting many years ago, that if I wanted to treat people on a regular basis that was healthy and mature, i.e. loving, I need to become a person of goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy. And those four things, when I am treating people with goodwill, respect, and empathy, which requires humility, by the way, H equals REG, HREG is what I call it. HREG, H equals REG, humility equals respect, empathy, and goodwill. You can't have the other three without being humble. Then I know for a fact that I'm treating you in a loving way, because love never treats people with ill will, disrespect, or sends a message, I don't care, which is a lack of empathy. Pride will send that message. And then I realized that as I live a life of the four, what I call the four protectors of an us, goodwill, respect, humility, empathy, when I live my life that way, then I'm always going to protect my relationships as far as it concerns me. Romans 12:18. I'll bring peace to a relationship. Now, that doesn't mean we'll have peace, because you may not want a peace with me. But as far as it concerns me, I'll bring peace to a relationship. But in order to do that, you're going to have to develop conscientiousness and self-control. And Relate Well, we actually teach the skills for doing that. You can learn more about that at relatewell.us, our core program. If you decide you want to do it and you like a discount, let me know personally, and I will send you a discount code to get it at an enormous savings. All right, you'll see the retail rate there. But if you want to learn the program on your own, in your house, and master what I raised my kids on, and I had to learn to do for myself. We teach this now in businesses, what we call emotionally healthy leadership, emotional wellness and leadership. We teach this in businesses. We also do it in our marriage intensives, and we use it as a core for our marriage coaching work that we do. I live by it, not perfectly, but maturely, to the best of my ability. Am I saying that rather arrogantly? Mm-mm. Ask my wife, Luella. She'll tell you, because she's told me I have. I figure she'd be the best indicator of whether I believe this person or not. You see. I may be one way in public, but who I am in private has far greater meaning. So then, these two traits ain't too sexy, ain't too romantic sounding, ain't too fun. But here's what I've learned. If you choose to develop and become a conscientious person, you'll have to master self-control to do that, because conscientiousness will lead you to self-awareness, will lead you to self-awareness. Then you can practice self-control. And then the romance, the fun, the playfulness, all will have far greater value in the marriage, because self-control and conscientiousness in a marriage form a foundation for trust and safety, security to thrive. This is another Relate Well with Dr. Rick Marks. I hope you all have a great day. See you on our next one. Bye-bye.